I tell you the famous Swiss fairy tale TREDESCHIN. A long, long, long time ago, a mountain farmer and his wife lived in the Bündner Land in Switzerland. Their small croft was surrounded by alpine pastures, hidden between high mountains. They had 12 children, and on a beautiful Sunday in May, a 13th child was born into the world. It was a sweet little boy with black locks and shiny blue eyes. The mother looked at her newborn and said, "Dear husband, what shall we call our youngest? We have already used up all the nice names. We have a Hans, a Peter, a Reto, a Florin, and a Kasper." The father pondered for a while. What's about TREDESCHIN? It means the 13th in our language. Oh, what a beautiful name! Now, why didn't I think of that? The mother agreed happily. And from this moment on, the little boy was called TREDESCHIN. Years went by, and TREDESCHIN grew up to be a happy and clever boy. He could sing and yodel like nobody else, and when he played on his old fiddle, even the cows and goats started to dance. On a spring day, when TREDESCHIN was 16 years old, he packed a few things and said to his parents, "I'm going to look at the world now. I want to visit the King of France and to get to know his beautiful daughter. So goodbye, dear father. God bless. Please, Mom, don't cry. I'll be back very soon." TREDESCHIN traveled across mountains and valleys, through villages and cities, until, after many days, he found himself standing in front of a magnificent castle. It was the castle of the King of France. TREDESCHIN tucked his fiddle under his chin, played a merry tune, and headed directly through the main gate into the castle courtyard. A guardsman, holding a mighty spear in his hand, stood on the marble stairways. "Stop, young man. Where are you going?" "Where do you think I'm going?" TREDESCHIN replied. "I want to say hello to the king and ask him whether he can use my services. Please let me through." But the guardsman didn't want to know, and chased TREDESCHIN from the castle, brandishing his spear. "What do you think are you doing? Where would we be if the king welcomed every Tom, Dick, and Harry? Away with you!" Somewhat taken aback, TREDESCHIN sat himself down on a big stone by the wayside. An old man came by and asked, "Well, young man, what's bugging you?" "Ah, I have come all the long way from the Swiss mountains because I want to say hello to the king and princess. But the guard with a pointed spear didn't let me in." "Well," the old man said, "I am the king's chief court servant, and actually you could help me. If you want, you can stay with me." This is how TREDESCHIN became the shepherd boy of the chief court servant, and he looked after the king's herds. On a balmy summer's day, TREDESCHIN took the cows, pigs, and goats to the castle well to give them some water. He sat himself down on the edge of the fountain, tucked his violin under his chin and started to play. His music was so enchanting that the animals started to dance around the fountain on their hind legs, all ears listening. The princess stepped onto her balcony and waved to TREDESCHIN. "Hey, you! How would you like to come up here and play us some of your tunes?" TREDESCHIN looked up to the princess. "I would love to come, but the guard won't let me in." So the princess ran down the marble steps, took TREDESCHIN by the hand, and accompanied him into the castle. The guardsman with the pointed spear was gobsmacked, and his eyes nearly popped out of his head. In the throne room, TREDESCHIN played so beautifully on his violin that he was allowed to stay in the castle from then on. Everybody loved him. Only the guard with a pointed spear couldn't stand the fact that TREDESCHIN was now living in the castle. One day the jealous chap whispered into the king's ear, "Majesty, Your Majesty, TREDESCHIN is a terrible show-off. He said he could steal the horse fast as the wind from the stable of the evil wizard. I give you my word, Your Majesty, that is exactly what he said." Of course, the guardsman was lying. However, the king believed him, and he decided to put TREDESCHIN to the test. "Bring me the horse fast as the wind from the stable of the evil wizard. If you manage to do that, I will give you my daughter's hand in marriage." TREDESCHIN thought long and hard how he could manage to outwit the servants who were guarding the horse fast as the wind, day and night. Finally, he came up with a plan. He put some sleeping powder into a bottle of red wine and put on some old women's cloth. Then TREDESCHIN walked through a thick, dark forest until finally he reached the wizard's castle in the evening. It was dark all around. However, in the stable there was a flickering lantern. The horse, fast as the wind, was being guarded especially well. One of the stable hands held on to his tail, another one held the right hind leg, and yet another one the left leg. One sat by the right front leg, one by the left, and another one was mounted on the horse. TREDESCHIN called through the stable door, using a trembling voice as a disguise. "Have mercy with an old woman. I'm so tired, and I'm freezing to death. Please, let me rest in your warm stable for a while. Please, show me some kindness. I have an excellent wine in my basket, and I'm willing to share it with you." The wizard's servants talked about it amongst themselves. "The gaffer gave us strict instructions not to let anybody in. But how could such a weak and old little wench do us any harm? And anyway, it would be quite fun to spend the evening with a good glass of wine." So they opened the door and let the disguised TREDESCHIN in. Clumsily, he sat himself down in a dark corner. He got out the bottle of wine and pretended to drink. It's a good one. Would you like to try some? TREDESCHIN offered the bottle of wine to the servant sitting by the horse's tail, who picked it up and drank as if there was no tomorrow. Hey, don't guzzle it all. We want to have some too, moaned the others. One after the other drank from the bottle until the last drop had gone. Soon after, the first servant started to yawn.
I'm so tired, but I'm not supposed to fall asleep.
After a while, he was sleeping like a log. Then the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth fell asleep too. Finally, the chap on the horse was also overcome by sleep, and snoring like a dragon, fell into the straw with a thud. TREDESCHIN quickly mounted the magic horse and galloped away. In the wizard's garden, there was a knobby apple tree. A parrot cage was hanging on one of its branches. When TREDESCHIN dashed past it, the parrot started to screech loudly. Master, oh dear! Master, oh dear! Come quickly and look! TREDESCHIN is a sly little crook! The wizard woke up, ran to the window, and shouted behind TREDESCHIN. Where are you off to, TREDESCHIN? And when will you be back? And TREDESCHIN replied, I'll be back soon to make my fortune. At the very same night, TREDESCHIN brought the horse fast as the wind to the castle. The king was beside himself with joy, and as a reward, he gave TREDESCHIN a heavy golden chain. The guardsman became pea-green with envy, and yet again he skulked up to the king and said slyly, Majesty, your Majesty, this chap TREDESCHIN has been blowing his trumpet again. He said he could steal the blue magic quilt with a golden sun from the wizard's bed. Once again the king believed his guardsmen, and he summoned TREDESCHIN. If you bring me the blue magic quilt with the golden sun from the wizard's bed, I'll give you my daughter's hand in marriage. If you don't succeed, you will have to suffer the consequences. TREDESCHIN pondered on this difficult task for a long time. Slowly, a plan emerged. He stuffed a ball of strings into his right trouser pocket and another one into the left pocket. Then he set off over the mountain through the thick, dark forest until finally he reached the wizard's castle in the evening. TREDESCHIN hid in the garden, close to the castle wall. One after the other, the lights were turned out and the windows darkened, until the only light still on came from the wizard's bedchamber. All of a sudden, the window opened, and the wizard looked out onto his garden, making sure that everything was in order. TREDESCHIN hardly dared to breathe. He was as quiet as a mouse. The wizard yawned and disappeared into his bedroom. Luckily, he had left the window open. TREDESCHIN waited a while, then gingerly he climbed up the trellis and scurried quietly into the bedroom. The wizard and his wife were both snoring like dragons, and on the bed lay the quilt with a golden sun. TREDESCHIN gently pulled out a string from his pocket and tied it around the right corner of the quilt. Then he tiptoed round the other side and tied a second string around the left corner. Gently he unrolled the balls of string and glided them through the window. Then he climbed down himself. As soon as TREDESCHIN touched the ground, he pulled on one string really hard. The wizard woke up. "Hey, woman, where's my quilt? Don't keep on pulling it at your side." His wife mumbled, "Leave me alone. I want to sleep. I need some peace and quiet in the night." It wasn't long before they were both snoring their heads off again. Now TREDESCHIN gave a strong tug on the other string. The wizard's wife woke up. "Hey, you! Where's my quilt? Don't keep on pulling it at your side." "Pulling? Who's pulling? It's not me." "What, you crazy old oaf? Give me back my quilt right now, you!" They screeched, squabbled, pulled each other's hair, and had a proper fisticuffs. Flower vases and chamber pots flew through the room. It was hell on earth. Down in the garden, TREDESCHIN thought to himself, "It's now or never." With one big tug, he pulled on both strings. The blanket came flying through the window and landed in front of TREDESCHIN's feet. He tucked it under his arm and ran as fast as he could. The wizard and his wife were still at each other's throat and didn't realize what was happening. As TREDESCHIN slipped past the apple tree, the parrot started to pipe up again. "Master, oh dear! Master, oh dear! Come quickly and look! TREDESCHIN is a sly little crook!" The wizard ran to the window and shouted at the top of his voice, "Where are you off to, TREDESCHIN? And when will you be back?" And TREDESCHIN called from afar, "I'll be back soon to make my fortune." When TREDESCHIN happily marched into the castle forecourt early next morning, holding the precious magic blanket, the guardsman's face turned as red as a tomato from anger and frustration. As a reward, the king gave TREDESCHIN a gold ring with a huge diamond. The guardsman couldn't accept defeat, and yet again he scurried to the king. "Majesty, your Majesty, TREDESCHIN has been at it again. This time he reckons he could get you, the talking bird from the magic castle." The king thought to himself, "All good things come in threes." He ordered TREDESCHIN to go and get the talking bird from the magic castle, and he promised, "If you bring me the talking magic bird from the wizard's castle, you'll get my daughter's hand in marriage, and this time I mean it." So once again TREDESCHIN set off on the long journey to the wizard's castle. When he arrived in the wizard's garden, the parrot wasn't on the apple tree anymore. "Oh dear, where's the magic bird now?" thought TREDESCHIN, and pulled his hat deeper over his eyes. He went to the wizard's kitchen and lamented, "My tummy is rumbling. Have you got anything to eat for a tired rambler?" The cook felt sorry for the poor chap and offered him a bowl of warm soup. TREDESCHIN slowly slurped the soup and peered out from underneath his hat, hoping to find the parrot. All of a sudden the kitchen door opened and a stable hand came in. He looked at the beggar carefully, recognized his sparkling blue eyes, grabbed him and shouted, "Stop the thief! Stop the thief! This is the one who stole the horse! It's Chatterine, or whatever he calls himself! Stop the thief! Stop the thief!" The wizard stormed into the kitchen. "Tie him up and guard him till tomorrow morning. Then he will get his comeuppance. I will think of something especially nasty for this scoundrel." TREDESCHIN threw himself at the wizard's knees and wailed, "Do with me as you please, but don't tie me up with a rope made from straw. Gee! Just the mention of the word straw, gee, makes me tickles all over. Gee! Please, Mr. Wizard, no straw. I would sneeze me to death." An evil glint appeared in the wizard's piercing eyes. "Good to know. Now I will make certain that you do get tied up with just such a rope." "Oh, unlucky me, but please, Mr. Wizard, don't let the talking ghost bird come anywhere near me. I would surely die of fear, and please, Mr. Wizard, cannot one of your servants stay with me so that I don't have to be all alone? This would be my last wish." The wizard grinned spitefully. "You would like that, wouldn't you? Hang the parrot directly above his nose and let him rot all on his own." TREDESCHIN was left in the kitchen, all alone, tied up with a rope from straw, with a parrot to keep him company. Soon the magic castle settled down for the night. When TREDESCHIN was certain that everyone was asleep, he thought of the rope, grabbed the parrot cage, and quickly climbed out of the window. The parrot started to screech, "Ma!" But TREDESCHIN quickly stuffed a big sticky toffee into his beak. Every time the parrot opened his beak, "Ma!" TREDESCHIN stuffed another toffee into his beak until it was so sticky that the parrot couldn't utter another sound. Early in the morning, TREDESCHIN walked into the castle forecourt with a parrot. The guardsmen nearly choked from anger, turning as blue as a plum. The princess hugged TREDESCHIN. At last, he was allowed to bring his parents and siblings into the castle in a golden carriage. And soon after that, they celebrated the most fantastic wedding